Good evening, everybody. I would like to call to order the town board meeting for October 4th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. As always, we are remote and virtual. We stream to our Facebook, our YouTube page, and to our town website. We also have instructions at the top of each agenda to zoom in and join us over Zoom to be a participant in public hearings and open voting. So next up, I would ask Councilor Decky to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Supervisor Bowler, so they're prepared to share a report.
In honor of Indigenous Peoples' Day, I'd like to read a land acknowledgement. The town of Manlius is located on the ancestral lands of the Onondaga Nation, one of the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the oldest participatory democracy on earth. The Onondaga Nation territory originally consisted of 2.6 million acres. In 1779, George Washington ordered the military to eliminate all the Haudenosaunee and burn their villages and destroy their crops and food stores. Afterwards, New York State acquired more than 97% of Onondaga territory, leaving the remaining members just 7,300 acres. We meet tonight on this bountiful land that was never given or sold to our forebears. We value this land and hold it dear, as do the Onondaga people who have lived upon it for over 1,000 years.
Okay, so next up, we have open podium.
Sure.
So we did receive one long letter. The town clerk is going to read a portion of that, the general feeling of that. And just as we're doing this, we got a number of people here on open podium who signed up. It looks like for the High Bridge and the HMC zone change public hearing. So I'm going to hold those folks until the public hearing. And so when I get to the end of open podium, if I skip you and you're not here about a public hearing, please just raise your hand and let us know.
Sure. So like the supervisor said, we kind of have a packed house tonight, and I know there are some other folks that would like to speak on a very similar topic. I have distributed this letter to the town board, and it is also available on our agenda if you would like to read it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the opening, I'm going to read the summary, and then some of the main points. This is from Derek Underwood. He said regarding the pending non-public school request for a school resource officer. Dear members of the Manlius Town Board, I am writing in support of a non-public school, Immaculate Conception, who has a request before the town board for a school resource officer or similar, and offers to cover the town's cost for the same. I am a resident of the town of Manlius, and I have been an attorney for over 25 years. IC's request is reasonable and would result in a clear benefit to the town of Manlius. Resistance to IC's request does not appear to be justified in fact or law, and I am one of the many in this community that are not satisfied with the pace of progress towards fulfillment of this request. Then Mr. Underwood does cover several topics. He spoke about the funding is resolved. He spoke about some misunderstandings and legal advice. He also listed selected legal distractions, including the gift and loan clause of the New York State Constitution, New York State Attorney General position, New York State Attorney General opinions, potential legal challenges, safety in numbers, and then he offered a summary. There are no legal prohibitions against assigning a school resource officer to a non-public school in New York State. As a town board, you have the authority to fulfill IC's request. You can pass an ordinance or a resolution to fulfill IC's request on the basis of ordinary health, safety, and welfare for the town of Manlius. You can also pass it on the principle of community policing. If it makes you feel more comfortable, you can also pass it as an emergency ordinance or a resolution on the basis that the continued lack of armed protection on the campus of any major school in the town of Manlius simply constitutes an emergency. Either way, these are public benefits, no matter whether they also benefit a non-public school. In summary, I ask the town board to act out of common sense and out of an effort to better protect the entire community. IC is a major school within the community that just happens to be a non-public school. IC is willing to pay the town. Everyone would benefit from this. There are no legal prohibitions. Other towns in New York State and around the country have assigned school resource officers to non-public schools. You will be doing the right thing. Very truly yours, Derek Underwood.
So next up, we have Mary Ellen and Greg Key.
Hello, everyone. We have two grandchildren at IC school and feel very strongly that they need to be protected as well as any other children in this community. We have looked into the legalities of this and we don't understand what the problem is. IC is willing to pay. We're not asking anything extra out of the community. We've been taxpayers in this community since 1987. We've lived in Fayetteville. Our own children went to IC school as well, and now our grandchildren are there. And we just ask that you consider this very seriously because it's an issue today. It's an issue to all schools, public and private. And we just ask your consideration for that. Thank you.
Next up, let's look at James R. Wilson.
He's here for the hydration.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can imitate it.
Next up, Tim Kelly.
I think I was just signing the sign sheet, sorry.
Next up, Matt Duffy.
Sorry, let's decide.
No worries.
I think I just got thought that was a sign.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Is anyone else here that I didn't call? I see a number for Highbridge and a number for Route 5, zoning, things like that. Is there anyone else?
We did sign the list up here.
Here's another one.
It's a chance to I just thought you had that jump.
Would you like to come up?
Sorry about that. Sorry. Did I sign the wrong one?
Nope, I guys are right here.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Father Thomas Ryan. I'm the pastor of Immaculate Conception Church here in Fayetteville. I've been pastor at IC for over 17 years. And the vast majority of our parishioners, 2,250 families, live within the town of Manlius and are active, responsible citizens and taxpayers. I am very grateful for the time that you, the town board, has already put into our request for a school resource peace officer. Our principal, Ms. Nancy Ferroni, has previously made it clear that our request will not burden the taxpayers of the town and will not take any active officer from the ranks of the Manlius Police Department. As you may know, we've been working on this request for almost 5 months. Holy Cross and DeWitt, our neighboring parish school, has been involved in their process for less than 2 months, and their town board is actively pursuing the possibility of this position. Recognizing your own valuable time on many issues in the town, I would ask that you indeed make this a priority. Is it necessary to wait until DeWitt makes a move and then we act? Or could you move forward with the volumes of information you already have? And if necessary, check with the Attorney General's office. As elected representatives, I have no doubt that public safety is an overall priority for you. It is certainly our desire to be good neighbors. Like other religious communities, IC Church and school donate much time, effort, and service to make the larger community a place of welcome, of caring for anyone in need, and in nourishing our people with values for life. Our IC school, according to New York State directives, already benefits from various services offered to our public schools. Busing, textbooks, testing assistance, and a nurse are a few. And while we are very appreciative and have a good relationship with the FM school district, we also deserve the benefits the town citizens make possible through their taxes. The addition of a school resource officer would make our school a safer and more secure place of learning and faith. Our IC parish provides an important service to the overall community in offering quality faith-based education. In one sense, our parents are taxed twice, paying local and state taxes and also paying tuition. If our school was not an option in this community, it would put a further burden on local taxpayers for the 250 to 300 students who would have to attend public schools. I don't believe that our request is extraordinary, as it is already occurring in many various areas of the state, including Binghamton and Utica Catholic schools. This is certainly not an issue we want to be politicized or solved in the local newspaper or TV newscasts. The reality is that the longer this decision is shelved, the longer our students are vulnerable. I'm not a lawyer, and I know your legal concerns. However, I call your attention to a number of letters that you have received from at least 2 lawyers with supporting evidence as to the benefit and legal possibility of a resource officer at IC. Our firm desire, finally, first and foremost, is to work with you. However, time is of the essence. The grave situation at an Auburn school just today proves that once again. I know you desire the safety of all our residents. What could be more of a priority than the safety of our children? Please expedite this process and work with us now, not waiting for DeWitt. Let's be proactive together. Thank you for your time.
Next up, Jonathan Carter.
Evening. Thank you. I'm cognizant that my time limit's different this time because we're not agenda item. That was actually the first thing I was going to say. And I won't take that long. Are you going to? I guess I got unlimited time until I get started.
Is that necessary? That's a little rude. We have, just with the, we normally have 3 minutes for open podium. We often let people go longer, but with the sheer volume of people who signed up or speak in our rules that we wrote for open podium when we started, we indicated that we would limit people to 3 minutes. So just because there's so many people, but we can start you over so you can have your vote.
And thank you for that reset, Mr. Deere. I was going to ask, although I don't know if we'll need it. So, good evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak and for the time you've already spent on this issue. I did send a letter to you all Friday evening. You got it? Okay. I didn't hear back. And I mentioned that because I know I'm not one of your constituents, but I'm here speaking on behalf of hundreds of your constituents. Not just the parents at IC who are interested, who are interested in what's going on, but also the other parish members of IC, the students of IC who have grandparents that are residents of the town of Manlius, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and Little League teammates, many of whom go to public schools who are all interested in this. And frankly, they're not placated by the suggestion, well, we'll wait for a month and see what DeWitt does. They're not placated because this is an issue they don't believe that we can wait for. And they're not placated because they own calendars and they understand it's the first week in October. So I'm not here to talk about the letter. I just want to mention briefly a couple things. I provided a legal pathway which addresses the issues raised by the town attorney. A reminder that comptroller opinions are not binding. It is not difficult to find comptroller opinions that contradict each other. And the comptroller and the AG will not even tell you if a particular opinion is binding. With regard to that, with regard to DeWitt, just so you all know, if DeWitt does what we think they're going to do, and then you ask for an opinion and it says DeWitt can't do it, and DeWitt says we're doing it anyway, and someone sues and says, look, the AG said DeWitt can't do this, the court can and probably would set aside the AG opinion and make a different rule. They're not binding. And most attorneys that have contacted me about this are shocked that the town is relying on a comptroller opinion from the 70s because while the state constitution may not have changed since then, the world has. So as to what I'm here actually to say. We tell our children to be brave. We tell them to be courageous. We tell them to stand up for what's right. So let's assume your attorney is correct. I don't agree with that. That's not the legal consensus in this or other areas, but let's assume for the sake of this discussion that he's correct. Nothing stops you from saying we are not empowered by the state to act, but we are going to do so anyway because we consider this to be a compelling matter. Nothing stops you except for your own refusal. Even if he's right and you do this, nothing happens. No one comes from the comptroller's office, the AG's office to arrest you. Nothing happens unless someone sues you, which is very unlikely. And if someone sues you, you have insurance to cover the cost. And if you lose, which is even more unlikely, all that happens is a judge tells you to stop. That's it. When I was driving my daughter to her first day at IC and she was scared, I said to her, you know what it means to be brave? It means you're scared of something, but you do it anyway, because the only time you can be brave is when you're scared. And we're asking you to be brave. If you believe in this, if you want to help us, if you think this is the right thing to do, be brave and do it. And if you don't want to do it, be brave and admit it. Thank you.
I think next up is Chris Doucette.
Sorry.
No,
We wanted to ask if people want to speak.
I'm just.
Okay.
Basically, you're gonna say, yes, good. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak up, everybody? All right, show of hands. The raise hand back there. Anyone online who would like to speak at the podium? Use the raise hand function.
Yes. Are you asking who would like to speak on that specific matter or any
No,
matter?
so public hearings will come with the agenda. This is just for things that aren't on the agenda. basically. Okay? So we will move on forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so first up, we have the public hearing for the zone change at 7078 Eastern C Street, Fayetteville, from R1 to RM.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mike Fogel. I'm the attorney representing the applicant, Otar LLC. I was here a month or two ago to present the application, but just bear with me. I just want to go through it for the record since it is a public hearing. So Otar LLC is the contract vendee for the property located at 7078 East Genesee Street in Fayetteville. It's tax map number 092-01-05. As you know, Otar LLC has applied to the town board to change the zoning of the property from its current zoning designation, which is R1, to RM, which is the residential multiple use district, to allow for a professional office at the property specifically for Otar law office to be located to the property. Since the last appearance, before we were with you, we did appear in front of the town planning board, and I'm sure you know this, but just for the record, the planning board did determine that to issue a positive recommendation in support of the rezoning request from R1 to RM. As I explained during our initial appearance before the town board, we believe that the property fits perfectly within the intent and purpose of the RM zoning district, which is to allow the existing structure on the property, which is no longer marketable as a residence, to be able to be functionally repurposed as a professional office consistent with the RM zoning. We think so. It fits really well and fits with the intent and purpose of the RM district. We also think the proposed rezoning is in keeping with the character of the area. In reviewing this, we looked at the zoning of the neighboring properties that are in that Route 5 corridor, and many of them are already zoned RM. I think they've taken advantage of that zoning designation, and I think it's worked. And a lot of the neighboring properties are professional offices. There's 2 dentist offices next to this property. There's other law offices on the Route 5 corridor. There's realtor across the street, insurance company. I think there's other similar properties. So we think the rezoning, again, is consistent with the area. We also looked at the recently adopted town comprehensive plan, and we think this fits well within the comprehensive plan's goals and designation for that corridor. It identifies the future land use strategy for that corridor, which includes the property as neighborhood, mixed use, and commercial. So again, we think it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And as you know, the comprehensive plan is intended to be a blueprint for future zoning action. So we think that implementing the comprehensive plan by rezoning this property to RM would fit very well within comprehensive plan. We were made aware that traffic was raised as a potential concern. So to address that, we engaged GTS Consulting, Gordon Stansberry. He's a professional engineer and highly regarded traffic expert. We had him take a look at this and we submitted a copy of his findings to the town board to be included in the record. And I'm not a traffic engineer, but I just want to go through basically his conclusions that he reached in the traffic study.
Yeah. We're stuck here with the AC.
Yeah, sure. So, like I was saying, we retained GTS Consulting to look at the traffic in the area because we know that was raised as a potential concern. I think at the last meeting, maybe during open podium, I think. I was watching it from a baseball game, but I was able to listen. And the conclusions of his analysis were that the traffic that's going to be generated from the proposed office is going to be very minimal. He looked at the existing sight lines coming out onto the existing site access onto Route 5, which isn't proposed to change. And he looked, one of the things the traffic engineers look at is the site distances going one way or the other. And he determined that those were more than adequate and actually exceeded site distance requirements for that type of ingress and egress. So based on the minimal traffic that's going to come from the office, they're not going to have any issue getting out of the property. And again, the existing point of access isn't changing. He also looked at the accident history in the area. He submitted a Freedom of Information Law request to DOT because they keep a record of all the accidents that occur in the area that are reported to DOT. And he determined that based on the number of accidents over the course of this 3-year period, that it's actually that for similar type roadways, the accident rate is actually much lower than on Route 5 than it is on other similar type of roadways. And his analysis is in the traffic study. He also determined that the proposed development is consistent with other development along the corridor, which we've gone through, and ultimately concluded that there were no mitigation measures or recommendations necessary. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed that concern and
Thank you for that.
and submitted that report. We also did receive and have reviewed the minutes from county planning's meeting because due to the proximity to Route 5, it's required to be referred to county planning, as you know. And they determined that this was a local issue and that the board was free to act. They did include a couple of advisory notes, which we've passed along to Keplinger Freeman, who's working on the site plan application, assuming the rezoning is adopted for the site plan application that we're gonna have to submit to the planning board. And those are really site planning issues, talking to Aqua and things like that. So that's really it. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we're looking forward to hearing the comments from the neighbors during the public hearing. If there aren't any questions, so thank you very much.
I have a question that's simple, but and I think you already stated it, but the property only access is to Route 5, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. And that access point isn't changing.
Okay.
And in fact, if you look at the county planning comments, I think there was an advisory note that DOT said they weren't, that there's no additional access to Route 5 would be allowed.
Yeah.
So, and there's no intent, obviously, the existing access is more than sufficient.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
So, I'll forget.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So I would ask for anybody in the front row who wanted to speak on this zone change for the public hearing, if they just raise their hand so we can get a sense.
Go to the next one.
Anyone in the first row? Anyone in the second row? Sure.
Hi, my name is Bobby Lindenberry. I live in the neighborhood behind the property, actually one of the backyards that adjoins to the property. And I appreciate the comments on the traffic concerns that we raised, and Jack Popper spoke at the last open podium meeting. I just want to reiterate a couple things for consideration and understand the studies that were done from a traffic standpoint and our concern for the traffic increase and most importantly, the safety of our neighborhood and the kids that are in it. So it's surprising to me that the accident rate is lower considering there have been 3 accidents in the last month, major accidents in front of that property. So we'd be interested to see that. I don't know if we are allowed to see it, but the traffic increase is a major concern. People already use the cut through from 92 to East Genesee Street very heavily, especially when there's traffic backed up on either road. People don't stop at stop signs, they go over the speed limit. We have 15 plus kids that walk back and forth to Mont Road to and from school every day. We have another probably dozen kids that use the neighborhood as an unofficial playground. And we're consistently worried about the traffic that's coming through and people stopping. And as Jack Popper mentioned at the last open podium, one of his daughters unfortunately got hit previously. She's okay. She's here in the audience, or she's outside right now, but she's here. She's fine, but it could have been a lot worse. So a major concern for us is just the traffic increase, and also this may not be the time to discuss the road access. I know you mentioned Route 5 or on East Genesee Street, there would only be one point. We just want to make sure that there's also no access point into the neighborhood. None of the other RM properties in that area have access into a neighborhood or residential area. So that's obviously a major concern for us as well. If there were to be the traffic increase or this was approved to RM, I don't know if there's, last time when we were here, there was a long list of what could be made RM. And I know you're saying professional services, law office. I don't know if there's any way to do like a special use permit to make sure that that's what it ends up being. But obviously we also have concerns if it's not professional services or a law office, that's obviously a huge concern for us as well. So thank you for your consideration. I'm sure there's other people who have comments or questions, but if there was an opportunity to get, I think, John, you mentioned last time, digital speed limit signs installed or temporary speed bumps in the neighborhood, I think that would be very appealing to most of the
And I
neighbors.
think what we'll end up doing is following this meeting, I'll reach out to some of the folks that are here to speak tonight. Because the way that we kind of drive that conversation about that neighborhood speed issue would be through a petition, so that we can kind of get consensus from the neighborhood that people are interested in us kind of using our escalating solutions. But we will definitely reach out on that. And I know we were just discussing today, making a recommendation to the planning board that access would strictly be to and from Genesee Street. So, but I really do appreciate your comments.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because the dentist's office that went in did try to previously put an access road into Draycott. And we have a petition here that they have previously signed, the historical paperwork that kind of got us over that hump.
Yeah.
And we've already started one in case that were to come up again, so.
Thank you.
So is there,
Just one question.
Yeah,
So the concern about traffic going from Genesee Street to High Bridge.
Yeah.
Is that a concern related to potential connection between the driveway and?
Correct.
Draycott?
correct. People using the cut through to get to the law office.
So only under that circumstance would there be, would that be a?
I'm sorry.
Would be that's where the pasture would be if there was a direct access or the trade.
Yeah, I think the concern is that if
No.
connection was given.
Well,
No.
All right, hold on.
So, yeah, so what we're concerned about is people using our neighborhood as a cut through coming from Manlius to get to the law office and the increased traffic coming back out of the law office. So if people take a right on East Genesee Street, they'll likely cut through our neighborhood to exit. It's a lot faster to cut over to Route 92 to get back to Manlius than it is to take all the way through Fayetteville.
But you're saying that's happening anyway.
It's happening anyway,
It's
but just with
happening anyway.
increased traffic.
But more people potentially going into the law firm might.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
In the RM zone, it's for existing structures, right?
Correct.
So it wouldn't be like they can change it.
Correct.
so yeah, that would be, so they, because it's RM, the limitation on the zone, they couldn't like subdivide the property and build more buildings. Or could
I
they?
mean, the restrictions on our are pretty
They have to come back here.
thought out.
Yeah, you can't do any of that.
Planning board.
Yeah, but there was a long list of other things that could be besides professional services or law firms, and that's also a concern.
Artisan, maker, congregate care services, farmers market, gathering places, professional offices, personal services establishments, and apartments for residential use. And then the other uses, restaurants, bakery, indoor entertainment facilities, and potentially retail sales in a small scale. All those need a special use permit.
through the plan. So there would be, if something else were to happen that wasn't in that first list, we would have special consideration by the plan.
Which would be another one.
The first list meaning that it could be a farmer's market, retail, so it
Not
could,
retail, no. That would require special.
it said apartment for residential living, that's all
That's
included in
all
RM?
included in RM. The second list I listed, which potentially has a little bit more use, they require a special.
So the restaurants, coffee house, bakery, indoor entertainment facility, and small
Yeah,
scale retail would all need special permits. But the
Yeah.
aforementioned list would not.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is a concern from my perspective, and I'm guessing many others, is that if it doesn't become professional services or a law firm, and there's those things on the first list, like farmer's market, apartment for residential, those were all things you listed as it could be, even though you're saying it's gonna be professional services law offices, like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Correct.
So that is a huge concern for us. And so I guess what I'm asking is there a special use permit for this particular purpose that we could issue, or you guys could issue, to make it only use for professional services or law firm?
That's site plans.
Yeah, the zoning itself tells you what can happen in the zone. And so if it's in allowable use in the zone, that's allowable use. You have those other uses that are by special permit, which require special permit. But more importantly, any major change would still have to go through site plan review through the planning board, and there would be opportunities to speak with other town officials to raise more concerns if there's an alternate use.
Okay, so if this were approved, the next step would be site plan and
Yes.
public hearing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the third row? Okay, can you come up and then we'll do everyone in the third row.
The others.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Kirk Leister, and I live 100 Bristol, right behind this home, which is actually a very historic home, because you may or may not know, it was Andrew White's residence, who was the founder of Syracuse University. I've lived in this neighborhood for 35 years. I watched the carriage house burn down 3 owners ago. I'm going to simply ask for an environmental impact assessment be performed on this issue of zoning change. An environmental impact assessment is a process that evaluates the potential of environmental impact of a proposed project or development. An EIA considers both beneficial and adverse impacts, including socio-economic impacts, cultural impacts, this is a residential neighborhood, and human and health impacts. I seriously ask this board to take the time to do a full assessment of these impacts, because I've seen a lot happening here. And there is a lot of safety issues for our kids. There's over 30 some kids in this neighborhood right behind this home. So I respectfully ask for that.
Thank you. And we have some hands from the third row. We're gonna kind of start from towards the door and work our way down. Okay. You're up next.
Somebody go.
My name is Hillary Josephs. I live at 101 Bristol Road, which is directly across the street from Mr. Leister's home. I have submitted for the record an email letter which stated my concerns and referred to the appropriate portions of the law and the goals and objectives, which the law asks that you take into consideration before you make a decision. There was one issue as to which I was not clear, and that is why the conversion of the property to a law office could not be accomplished under an R1 designation. Because I read, R1, in R1, you are permitted to run a professional office out of a residence. So I was questioning why it was necessary to apply for an RM designation, which might open up the hornet's nest to which one of my neighbors already alluded.
We can answer that.
Yeah, so you're allowed to have a professional office in R1 as long as you live in the house.
Yeah.
In this situation.
It's an accessory.
Yeah, in this situation, the person who the office, they will not be living in there, they will just be running an office. So that's the difference.
And if I may clarify, one of the points made earlier as to whether the law office, assuming that all the permissions are obtained, could lease space or have other attorneys or even other professional offices in the building. Would that require any further determination on the part of the town of Manlius?
So as long as they're all permittable uses that don't require a special permit.
So in other words, law office could open a cafe.
No.
Yeah.
They don't need a special use permit for a cafe.
The cafe was one of the things that was listed that would require a special use, so that would. But if they wanted to have like a CPA in one of the other rooms, as an example, that would not require a special permit. So that they could do without having to come back to the town board.
And the same would be true for farmer's market or some of the other uses which were mentioned.
Yeah, anything that doesn't require a special permit, they are allowed to do, although I do believe any major changes would have to go through site plan.
Well, if I may ask for the historical record, the law office, which is further down the corridor towards town center, was that changed from R1 to RM?
We don't have that information
A
readily
long
available.
time ago, I know a lot of the properties along Route 5 were changed to RM back when town center was mall. They did change a lot of the zoning along Route 5, but that was more than 20 years ago. I've been here 20 years and I don't remember that big change.
In other words, my question is whether it is absolutely necessary to grant permission for a zoning change. That's my
Based on-
question.
If
Under
they,
current law, under
yeah,
current law.
if they want to do what they would like to do, we would have to change this up for them to conduct that business there.
All right. Oh, another point that I would like to make in support of Kirk Leicester's observation about the historic significance of the house at this address. The ambiance of the community is notable to, I think, people who, pass by or who live, in the town of Manlius. So that between Linden Corners and Town Center, you have at least a sense of historically what the town of Manlius looked like. And anything that would detract from that, I think would detract from the overall attractiveness of the town. If I'm not mistaken, there's a sign somewhere which says Manlius is one of the 100 most wonderful places to live in the United States. Is that correct?
So,
Okay.
Everybody here would say that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
there
sure.
was a designation a couple of years ago.
Yes, well, I'm sure that aesthetic considerations play into that. If I have any further time, I defer to my neighbors.
Just before you get started, if there are folks here via Zoom who would like to speak on the Genesee Street zone change, please use the raise hand function and we'll have you come up next.
Essentially, I'm talking to you tonight because of the traffic.
Could you just say your name, please?
Oh, Bob Leonhardt. I live on 5187 Duane Drive. And I am at the other end of the thruway here. This is a residential neighborhood. We have a problem with traffic that goes through and ignores traffic signs. This cut through, okay, is going to increase, and we can almost be assured of that if we get this change involved. I just wanted to add to what was presented here earlier. This neighborhood, which many people walk in as an exercise. My wife and I walk it's 8-block area twice a day. We have not only our residents doing it, our children doing it. There are a serious number of people from Bookman Close, that 8-unit condominium thing there, that come over here. And in fact, they've made friends with some of us. It's a social thing. And that's how we walk there. Because it was not respected by the traffic even that we have now, I've gone and made up stop signs that we put on private lawns that says, hey guys, stop means stop. It was pretty good. They looked almost official. They were ignored. It doesn't, no, I'm sorry. There have been some increase in the stops, all right? I walk our kids from their homes every morning to the school. Thank you, fans. It's an experience that I wish that every kid could have. I know the buses are there for safety and expedience and this and that. Some of the things that exchanges when they walk is amazing. These little minds are so active, adorable thoughts, and they're just a delight to be with, okay? I don't want to take that away from them. I don't want to say, hey, we better get you on the bus because the place is a throughway now. So that's what I'm asking the board to consider, okay? I would appreciate it if you took a few minutes out and thought about that. We live with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the second row? Or the third row? Okay, back row.
Good evening. My name is Jack Webb. I live at 5216 Duane Drive, so in the corridor. I'm all for development, quite frankly. Obviously, what came to my mind when we heard that a law firm had purchased the property after the Dodds tried very, very hard. They sure did. So having been in the business world my career, I thought it's a good law firm. I know that. I've researched it. The question I have is a law firm buying a property with 4.5 acres, swimming pool, limited parking on the property. So my concern is what would happen, and we could all be gone many places, when somebody says we want to subdivide it and put more density on that property. And so we leave that for the future. You folks have done a great job. You continue to do a good job, but you're not going to be here in 10 years. I hope I am. When all of a sudden, because it's 4.5 acres and a swimming pool, and there's a disconnect there for me, quite frankly. I don't mean to live in a conspiracy world because Lord knows we have enough of that. So that's kind of the basis of one of the concerns that we have. And back to you should come around 8:30 in the morning when those folks parade those kids down the street. We don't have sidewalks. So they're in the street, and I hear the father and his wife try to corral these, but come on, there's 12 of them at least. And so that's a concern. And beyond this, the fact that the speed limits and the stop signs are ignored. We thank the police force for coming in once in a while, that maybe, I mean, they're busy people. And they watch, and they catch a few, and they catch some residents too. So, and that's okay, because they're not abiding by the same regulations. So beyond this, believe me, I think we could easily get as many signatures as you need for speed bumps to deflect the convenience of people going through there. But I leave you again with my first point. It just doesn't make sense in my mind, quite frankly, for a law firm to have 4.5 acres and a swimming pool. And within that zoning restriction, I understand that the purchaser has to maintain the integrity of the residents. But where does that go? And the folks that lived there before had a full-time caretaker. The property was immaculately manicured. And you're talking about a guy who mows my grass. I mow it myself every 3 days. So that's all part of the integrity aspect that has been pointed out here that, we see slip away in a lot of situations. And so no disrespect to the potential purchaser or the purchaser, but lots of questions about why this property and what else could be done with it. Because that is a big question. So thanks for all that you do. Keep my namesake Jack Webb in your mind for just the facts. Thanks. Some of you are too young to understand that, I know, but the rest of you will clue you in on it. Thank you.
So one last call, folks joining us via Zoom, and I just look for any further hands, anyone that would like to speak on the HMC zone change.
I would just like to bring up one thing that I did bring up last week, 2 weeks ago when I was here, just for the board to hear a second time. I'm Jack Popper, and obviously all these amazing people spoke on the importance of our neighborhood and our children. But I heard somebody bring up the idea of that there are other businesses in that area. And the sheer difference between what we're looking at going in there versus what is currently there of these dentists, which have a max of 5 to 10 cars, versus the number of employees that are possibly going to be moving into this right across the street from me. And what I'm going to be looking at and threatening my children. We're talking 40 cars, 50 cars per day is nothing compared to what is currently there with the dentists and the insurance company. So that's just something that I'd like you to consider.
Thank you.
I can reply to Ms. Joseph, the other building that is which is no longer active, but was a law firm, is John Garner. The other law firm is John Garner.
I wonder if we can, like, how much traffic would they get and pay attention. Yeah. I was gonna say, I can't imagine it being behind. But that's a good point, so, and how many stories.
So just as you guys are talking, and I know there's a lot of conversation around traffic, and by the way, I'm Kristen Leister. I also live in the neighborhood. I would like to know how many employees will be at the law office and how many clients do they expect to receive every single day? Because as much as we talk about the traffic, really, I'd like a more concrete number. So I know there's 6 lawyers, but what about the support staff for that? And then also maintaining the building, all of that will come into play when we have traffic discussions. Additionally, other than RM, Cazenovia does have an alternate zoning that I would like you guys to look into. It is their their 180-68B, and it is for some of the historic homes in Cazenovia, different to RM. And essentially, a historic home, like they said, that's a big property. It's a lot to take care of. And for a family to come in there, there's going to be few and far buyers. So we understand that it likely will become a business of some sort. But what other options do we have other than RM that will preserve the historic nature of the home, the neighborhood and the property that it's on to still allow an organization to come in and have proper use of it for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments anyone would like to share?
We're gonna wait till the public hearing goes.
So I wanted to just, while everyone is in the room, just like a quick show of hands, who here like lives in the East Tennessee neighborhood or is concerned about that? Have any of you heard about the sidewalk program that Counselor Denton led the charge on? So I'm gonna try my best to explain this correctly where I mess up. So the way that it has worked in the past in the town of Manlius, as many of you are aware, you don't live terribly far from the village of Fayetteville. The village of Fayetteville has lots and lots of sidewalks, as does the villages of Manlius and Manoa. The way that it works in the town is very different. We cannot just build sidewalks like we would normally do, or like a village would do, because a village can tax equally all village residents according to village law, to build sidewalks in the village. So even if you live a few miles away in the village, the monies from your tax dollars can still be spent on sidewalks in front of any parcel. A town cannot do that, which I learned as I recall, at our very first town board meeting, correct? That to make a sidewalk in a town, you have to form a special district. So Elaine Street created a whole process, and we're piloting the program right now on Enders Road, where there is significant concern about the safety of children being able to get to the elementary and middle school. Another great candidate would be, of course, Mont Road, where there are no sidewalks and where children have a very difficult time accessing that school safely. So due to Counselor Denton's work, your community could come together, pass the petition, and say that you're interested in forming a special district, agree to pay for that special district, pay for the sidewalk. So you can get the whole neighborhood to come together to create a sidewalk that could connect as many of the streets in your neighborhood as you wanted. Of course, sidewalks are very expensive, so perhaps you could be strategic where you put them to connect your neighborhood to Mont Road as best as you were able to, and to create safe places for your children to walk. Because it sounds like, and I live in the village of Manlius, so I have used that road before myself to get to Fayetteville. I promise I stopped at the stop sign. You'll recognize my car, it stands out, so you'll know it's me. I think I might actually be blushing now. I hope I can full stop in your neighborhood, I promise. So, but you can, I would encourage you, because it sounds like whether this zone change goes through or not, this has been an issue. We do foresee East Genesee Street becoming more of a commercial corridor. There are parcels up and down that street that we foresee becoming more dense and more commercial, less residential over time. That's our understanding of how this will go. So I would strongly encourage you that you look into the sidewalk program. I'm sure Counselor Denton would be happy to answer your question. But that's something that you could do if you got a bunch of your neighbors on board to do it with you. Yes,
Is that the same process for speed bumps?
It's essentially the same.
So we have to pay for the speed bumps?
No, you don't have to pay for speed bumps. And I wanted to talk to you about that too, because one reason why the sidewalk district requires you to petition is because of the
if
law.
we could, I'm so sorry, it's just so hard to hear, so, gentlemen, if we could keep the side chat to a minimum, because I think folks in the back are having a hard time hearing what we're saying.
So the sidewalk district, or the sidewalk projects too, they require you to petition because of the cost. And there is grant funding, the program is built in to consider grant funding to reduce that cost, but there is a cost to residents. The speed bumps, to put speed bumps in, there is no cost. We have set aside ARPA money too to get like speed calming, with the traffic calming items. And one of those things is temporary speed bumps. So I definitely think we need to, especially here from everyone here, that we need to consider those. We need to look at and ask Rob, what does he recommend? And look at where can we put temporary speed bumps in? Because I think with the temporary ones, we can try it, and if it works, it works. And then maybe it's a potential for permanent ones. And if we try it and it doesn't work, then let's look into something else. So I think then I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to work on that. I'm happy to do that.
And
Any
she
further
would-
comments, please come up to the podium.
And when she said ARPA, that's the federal money that we received, during, COVID that was, meant to be like economic development funds, and we can use it for things like traffic calming, and Rob Cushing, our highway superintendent. If anyone has any further comments that they'd like to come up to the podium. If you could come up to the podium here.
There's a microphone.
The microphone. Would help for those attending.
I confess to not being familiar with the comprehensive plan, but your comments about envisioning a commercial corridor between Linden Corners and Town Center, I think only underscores the concern that we have about sort of a gradual deterioration of our quality of life. So, I mean, in 100 years, of course, I don't think any of us will be here, and, you know, you can't plan, you know, perfectly for the future. But within the foreseeable future, there will be an elementary school which serves the neighborhood. There will be children walking to school. There will be families who want to live in our neighborhood precisely for those reasons. And while, you know, installing sidewalks is, I think it's a wonderful idea. That's what I am familiar with growing up in Chicago. But at the same time, it doesn't prevent kids from playing in the street. And you have to cross from one side to another. And if there are no traffic lights or other, you know, impediments, then I think you still have a possibility of an accident.
Yeah, thank you.
And so that's why the RM zone was created, specifically to protect historic businesses, buildings as well, to be able to.
Also, are there any comments? Okay.
Adjourn it to the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Just one thing I wanted to point out, if you have an opportunity to go and look at the purpose and intent of the RM zone, just the beginning of it, this district is designed to retain the existing residential character of established neighborhoods while permitting unobtrusive uses of commercial nature, which are to be regulated in such a manner as to maintain and preserve the residential character of adjacent areas, as well as providing transition between residential and non-residential areas. And so there are a lot of pieces in there that essentially are roadblocks to it becoming subdivided and turning into, you know, very dense commercial retail, something like that. And just as a reminder, this is the first time we have the conversation. The much longer and intensive conversation happens with the planning board, who oversee the site plan process. So whether or not this zone change goes through, everybody will still have an opportunity to honestly speak to a board that will be looking more at the consideration of the specific site plan, you know, able to ask the questions about how many employees and the intent and all those things. So there's a whole nother process that whether, you know, if this goes through, that will be engaged, you'll all be notified. And I'm sure our applicants here will be happy to work with the planning board, but also the public through that process. So.
Just so everybody knows, the traffic study exists and will be, should be available on the website. It does go through the number of employees and the amount of traffic that would be generated or anticipated.
Could I ask what you just recently just voted on quietly? I could not
Oh,
hear.
we made a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
So we close.
Okay, so.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Can I,
Okay,
could I just ask him one question? When you say is available, what do you mean by available?
You can review it on
Through
the
Hoyle or through?
No, it's on the-
That is on your.
It's on the website.
It'll be on the website.
right now on the agenda, there's a link to a folder on the website, with the application on the county planning board recommendation. We'll be adding the traffic study as soon as we can. Okay,
So we're not gonna vote tonight, because, after, we are gonna do, seeker, so we will be doing environmental probably for the next meeting. So that is part of the process.
Okay, so with that, thank you. We next up have the public hearing for zone change on Hybrid Street, tax map number 093 -01-05.1, in Garden Park. I know we have the developers here, if you'd like to just talk a little bit about the project before we go to the public hearing.
My name is Chris Danaher. I'm an attorney at Hancock Estabrook. I actually live at 1 Linden Lane in Fayetteville, New York. I'm here with Anthony Rayhouse. Anthony is the architect, and Anthony can touch on, if you'd like, some certain site plan aspects of it. But just so the public's aware of where we are in this process, I think it's good to give a little bit of background, if you don't mind. I know you guys have heard it, but we were before the planning board for a recommendation to convert the zoning. Actually, we made an application for a planned unit development. The property is currently zoned commercial A, heavily intense use. Unlike the last application where you heard about a zone change from an R1 to an RM, what we're trying to step back from intensity. So we're seeking to give this board, or the planning board, control, and this board control over the aspects of site plan through a planned unit development. So that's what we're trying to do. Right now, the commercial A district is not what we're trying to do. And like I said, Anthony can touch on site plan aspects, but through this PUD process, we do have to go through a site plan review by the planning board. No different than that last application, we'll have to go through site plan review. But we don't have a problem showing you some details, because that's what we're here for. That's what we intend to do. My client is an applicant for the property. We do not own the property. We're a contract vendee. We have a contract for it. So we've submitted the application for this board's consideration. The property is currently vacant. It's about 8.7 acres of land. It's what we're intending to do is a senior residence, senior multifamily facility. We believe it's right next to the Brookdale facility. We believe it will be a complement to that facility. We believe that it's a good use. It's consistent with the surrounding area. We've provided this board a traffic study, a traffic letter. The traffic counts for what we're intending to do on this property are minimal. We've also got the county planning involved, and their recommendations, very minor. And we intend to address all of those at the site plan level if this board were to be in agreement to proceed forward with the PUD process. I think it's important to touch a little bit, because this PUD is a little bit new for everyone, but there's criteria involved. And I think it's important to touch briefly on them, because that criteria is this board's determination for purposes of deciding whether to have a PUD for this property. So I'd like to just outline in 155-20.7, the criteria review and how this site plays into that. One of the aspects is efficient use of the land, natural resources, energy sustainability, and community services and infrastructure. As I mentioned before, we believe this fits hand in glove with the Brookdale facility. We've actually offered to the Brookdale facility occupancy by family members on a first priority basis, so they're near their loved ones. We believe that will also help with even less traffic, because they'll be there at the facility, can walk right next door. We're looking into solar. Obviously, there's going to be a deeper dive into that at the site plan level, but we understand that's important to this town, and we recognize that. The next thing is the consistency with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan calls out multifamily here. There's multifamily across the street. There is residential component. Understand that around the neighborhood. We believe this is the best fit. Again, it's commercial A. Going this route is bringing it down to the level we believe is adequate and a complement to what already exists at the property. We understand there's gonna be site plan issues and challenges and things we need to address, and we plan to, and we expect to. We just don't think it's here yet, but again, we can have Anthony talk a little bit to the site plan, but that's just to give a little flavor of what we're trying to do on this property. The third thing is does it substantially negatively impact natural resources, the environment, historic resources? We don't believe so. Again, we believe it's complementary. New employment opportunities, there will be employment opportunities but I don't think that's a huge component of it. But it is an investment in the community. It's a significant investment in the economic development of this community. It's a vacant piece of land, and it's going to have a multifamily and a strong tax base, provide a stronger tax base for this town. And it's availability of affordable housing. We've added a component in our district plan that we've provided this board, that we recognize the importance of this to this town. And we have a commitment from the applicant that we're going to address that, and we're going to do that. And we hope that that is sufficient to address that need. And we're willing to work with this board or the planning board with regard to that. A negative impact on the residential uses of the town, we don't believe so. This has to be couched in what the zoning is and where we're trying to go with it. And we believe this is a better zone than what exists today and what could be there with site plan review, what could be there in a commercial A district. And does it address issues of water, sewer, electricity, all those things? The services are there. And we just believe that we're not going to overburden any other services other than what's existing there. And is it prime farmland? No. And then is it consistent with the existing character of the neighborhood? It's existing, the neighborhood, the comprehensive plan calls for this. We believe it's consistent. So if this board would like, we can give a little color to what we're trying to do from a site plan perspective, or we can stay away from that. Whatever this board would like.
Yeah, just a few minutes.
Okay,
Anthony.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Rojas from In Architects. The site plan you see before you takes into account many of the comments that have been made with preliminary review. Some additional details that to touch upon. The areas that you see dashed in terms of parking labeled number 1, these spaces will be land banked so that we minimize the amount of asphalt that's initially provided on the site, allowing for more green space, and could be installed if necessary based on the density and the requirements of the residents of the town, of the property. We understand that slope stability analysis has to be conducted to make sure that the steep grading around a large portion of our site is stable and safe for the new residents and community guests that may be visiting the site. We also provided new sidewalks that allow for connectivity with the Brookdale facility. So you'll notice that label number 3 here. And then a little more detail on the traffic study that was provided at max peak hour. We're really talking about 11 additional cars per hour. So it really is a minimal impact for the overall amount of traffic that currently traverses Highbridge Street. There's also an agreement that's been provided to the town for the Gramercy Circle and the ability to utilize that existing access point into our site between Brookdale and our current owner that is seeking to develop this site. We've provided a couple of design perspectives to showcase. All this is online on the.
Oh, yeah.
So under the agenda, we have all the files. Okay, very good.
It's a different version. So if we make sure.
Yeah, just make sure we have an updated copy of this.
I think we provided, I think we might have.
We'll double check.
We'll check. We'll check.
It could be too, we found, as we're pushing these back and forth with the planning board and the town board, sometimes the planning board will have documents, so just making sure that we, if you guys submit something updated to us, you can let us know too. I don't wanna, place your drawing on if you change
Not
them.
knowing which the
and-
updated one.
Exactly,
Right,
so.
right. Okay, yes, these will be there. This is showing a little bit of the aesthetic flavor and providing a high-end, facility that allows for warm tones blending into the hillside that we will be building in front of. Also respecting in terms of height, of the overall building to not obstruct any of the views that are currently afforded by all of our surrounding neighbors up on the hillside and adjacent to this property. So we've kept all of our roof planes and all of that very low, but also giving us opportunity to provide solar arrays up on our, slightly sloped roofs to take advantage of that sustainable practice as well. So these are just a couple perspectives, and there's many more within the package, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just, we have it over the phone. Any questions to the board?
No, but thank you for updating some of the feedback. That's great.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Okay, so that's up.
So I'd like to waive the reading.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So, aye. Aye. Those, okay?
So it's oh, sorry. Motion to open. Didn't we just? No, I got distracted by the book.
You second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So.
Can I ask one question before the architect disappears?
He's not leaving.
No, we'll just have comments come up, and then probably at the end, we'll try to address many of the questions.
So come on.
Do you have a comment to share? Or a question you'd like to ask? Come on.
And say your name.
My name is Bill Gray. I'm a resident of High Bridge Street. I provided you today a document that covers most of my comments. It's fairly long. I will try and give an abridged version of it. And if I do a good job, perhaps you'll read the whole thing. My question for the architect before I get into this was that the drawings you just saw of the building were the drawings submitted with the original R5. The building is now referred to as a 4-story building, not a 3-story building. So is that drawing accurate?
Yeah.
That is 4 stories?
Are you talking about
Looks
parking
like-
being the first story?
The parking is below the building. So the one we're showing in this perspective is a partial 4th story that goes in full footprint. But they would recess back to the one facade.
So does that make sense to you?
No.
All right, so explain that. Can you bring that in the back?
Sure. So here, you'll see a little bit of this, the site kind of going down, right here at the entrance, which would be the underground parking underneath the building. That would provide at least half of the parking spaces for all the residents. Then you've got 3 full stories that go up, which is what you see from this corner. But beyond, you see those pitched roofs kind of towards the top. Those pitched roofs are a partial 4th story, which allow us to get the additional units because we made the commitment of the affordable units that we need. And that then gives us the ability to also place solar panels up on those sloped roofs without giving the density of a 4-story building along the street side and along the
So those white setback, this is
Yes.
part of like apartments up there.
Yeah, I think I have an area here too. So you see how it's set back along the.
There we go. So that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, because that picture is helpful.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A lot of time has passed since the Garden Park zoning change was proposed in 1990. I was there for the town's discussion and the design and the developer's presentation. Very little time has passed since the town adopted the planned unit development section of its zoning code, yet already has several PUD proposals, including a redressed Garden Park zoning change. In January 1990, the town board met to hold a public hearing on the Garden Park zone change. The project architect opened with comments indicating that the gravel pit was in rough shape. They would reclaim it. He then went on to describe the commercial area. There will be 7 1-story and 2-story buildings with the primary entrance along High Bridge Street and the secondary entrance along the residential street. The buildings will be residential in character. There was substantial community input. The supervisor opened a discussion on February 28 by noting that the public hearing had been held and closed. And so Councilman Byrd read a lengthy statement which contained the following in the opening paragraphs. It appears that there are three salient issues. Perhaps the most fundamental is that commercial A zone designation does not belong in a predominantly residential 1 neighborhood. Supporting this contention are concerns for traffic and possible adverse effects on the wetlands into which the neighborhood drains. He goes on to explain for 2 more pages that develops the rationale that he uses to support the resolution he submitted, a resolution which supported the zoning change. The resolution itself goes on for 4 pages. Among the numerous whereases were the following. Whereas the petitioner will vegetate the steep banks of the unclaimed quarry, thereby improving the stability of the slopes. And whereas the offices proposed for this site are relatively small and in style and construction that is compatible with existing structures of the area. The resolution passed 6-0. There was substantial unrest in the neighborhood or in the room. Planned unit development. Zoning allows the municipality to implement its master plan and provides consistency and protection for those who live and invest in the municipality. The concept of a planned unit development evolved over time to take advantage of unusual combinations of existing or proposed projects that could be buildable by the developer and beneficial to the community without being disruptive or discordant with the existing community. They generally had to be large enough and complex enough to warrant developing their own plan. They would be unusual enough to not fit comfortably in the developed zoning, but innovative enough to fit inside the community's goals and objectives. The recent submittal of a 50-acre Twin Ponds PUD development appears to fit within the concept of combining enough land and novel land uses that do not conflict with surrounding properties. It frees up green spaces, provides work opportunities in the process. It is close to community properties, dense residential areas, mass transit, restaurants, grocery stores, and the like. The potential for benefits to the town are real. The Garden Park proposal is not a planned unit development. It's a simple land use that consumes the entire 5 acres of usable space available. It is made up of parking, the building, and the stormwater retention basin. The district plan proposes a 78, it's now 80, 4-story building, 78 unit 4-story building. Its immediate neighbor is a 1-story building, and it's surrounded by 1- and 2-story single-family homes. The attorney made the statement that it's adjacent to high-density residential uses. In an earlier document that I provided for the earlier zone change, I went through the numbers. 91% of the perimeter of this property is R1 and RA. It only touches the dense residential in 1 or 2 spots where it projects out.
Just wanted to say mindful of time so we can hear our comments. Did I have about 5 minutes?
Finish really quickly. The district plan proposes 78 units, 4 stories. The immediate neighborhood, 1- and 2-story. Neither the massive bulk nor the architecture is consistent with the surrounding land uses. The town's original grant of the zone change to the Garden Park development was based on their proposal of relatively small buildings that were consistent with the residential neighbor of the neighborhood. There's nothing in the Garden Park proposal that makes it stand out as a planned unit development. There's nothing in the plan that would not be there without the PUD designation. The plan does not promote green space. It destroys the succession forest. It does not redeem the old gravel pit. That work's already been done. It does not enhance the walkability of the neighborhood, nor does it augment the townwide traffic reduction program by being close to mass transit or providing bicycle pedestrian access to shopping and entertainment. The architecture of the building's bulk, the architecture and the building's bulk are not at all sensitive to the surrounding neighborhood. The current Garden Park proposal is not at all consistent with the proposal that was used to justify the original zoning change. There should not be a second bite at the apple. If you ask me where this standalone project would fit in the town, I would suggest to you that it could be sited adjacent to the Northeast Medical Center and several dense residential areas. This would provide the location where it could include pathways to shopping, entertainment, workout opportunities, the bus service at the town center, and could participate in a town-wide bicycle and pedestrian pathway connecting green areas and parks. That integration in the town plan would earn a PUD status. There are several other areas available. I won't go through that. It could be incorporated into the Twin Ponds proposal. The village of Fayetteville recently rejected a similar proposal on the basis that it didn't match the community. All right, stop there.
Thank you.
I know you had your hand up.
I had some questions, but I'll let some other people.
Okay.
Can I go ahead?
My name is Denise Lynch. My husband's Patrick Lynch. We live at 7346 Dartmoor Crossing. We live right behind Brookdale. When my husband and I purchased that home, after the parade of homes, we were showed the plans of Mr. Campolino saying about the one-story business. It was not a concern because it fit in with the development of the residential area, the way the buildings look, the rooftops, everything. My husband and I lived over on Mott Road. It's 5 West Lane. We said this is convenient. We're gonna come over here. And then before it was Altera came in. And when Altera came in 1996, I think it was, my neighbors, we all came together on Dartmoor Crossing and including on High Bridge, Dr. Konis and his wife Karen, we all came together in concern of what was going to be happening there and how it was going to impact our neighborhood and our homes because it was a residential area and the traffic flow. And we worked with Pioneer Development, I think it was the time, and we helped develop the landscaping and the look of that building. I went down to Albany with one of my neighbors and I looked at 2 other facilities. We changed the lighting to fit in with Dartmoor Crossing, so it looked more residential. We changed the aesthetics of the outside the building. They put a corral fence that no longer is existing to keep the safety of the residents in there, and also changed the way the opening and the parking coming off of High Bridge Street to help with some of the traffic flow. Because also on High Bridge Street, when High Bridge Street gets busy, 92 gets busy, Route 5, Dartmoor Crossing becomes a path through. And I don't know if you guys have been on Route 5. I'm on Route 5 coming down at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning coming from the city, and Route 5 and Route 92 gets so backed up that people start to cut through in all different ways. So just like the other people that were speaking here prior about cut through traffic, we get the same thing. And there's kids that are on High Bridge Street that are getting off at these homes for buses. Our late buses drop our kids off on Dartmoor Crossing at High Bridge Street to go into Dartmoor Crossing, or they drop them off on the beginning of 92 and they walk in. We don't have sidewalks. My neighbors a long time ago tried to get sidewalks in before your plan to get us to get into the village. We're very stuck in our area with our homes. I love my neighborhood, but it is a deterrent when you start having cut through traffic. Romano cars come through, sometimes people test driving, they're servicing cars. It just is by creating this facility and putting it where it is, okay? It's not gonna be a Monday through Friday type of traffic, which we were told, one-story buildings, commercial, that would only be occupied during that time. When Brookdale went in as a facility for people with special needs, we knew what the traffic flow was gonna be. They knew they only need so many parking lots. You start building a complex that's gonna hold this many people, and they are multifamily use, when they want to have Super Bowl parties, Christmas parties, where are they gonna park? On a hybrid street? We already know sometimes we get overflow, people that walk over into apartments, they park on Dartmoor. We know what we're up against, and that's what these people are trying to address to you, is that there's gonna be a traffic flow problem. Aesthetically, that building does not fit in with our homes. And all the time, my taxes keep going up on my property. I keep trying to keep it aesthetically looking nice, and I get referred to my property as Mallard's Landing, Recircle, all these different places. It's not the same. I live next to commercial buildings. You cannot tell me that my property is the same. And you put something in there, it's very sad. I've lived in this house now for 30 years. You put something in there that aesthetically doesn't fit in. I've worked with all my neighbors to try to make sure that Brookdale looked nice. And now you put something in some commercial. I'm not saying it's not a beautiful building. It is. It just doesn't belong on Hybrid Street. That's just not where it belongs. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have to go. I wanted to get your name, your speech or your introduction to this. You obviously don't live on Hybrid.
Sir, the public hearing is to address the board.
Okay, yes.
And
I
what's
just
your
wanted,
name? What's your name, please?
I'm sorry, James Wilson, Rob.
Thank you.
Could you bring up there it is. Just so you know, this is my house right here. So I can walk out over the cliff and look at the valley. It's beautiful. They want to take it away. And if it's 3 stories, or now they're saying it's 4, but not really 4. And now I'm gonna be looking into a solar field, right? I've been here 23 years. I'm a retired Navy guy. I'm old. I ain't got much time left on the planet. But I spent almost 8 years all in that nature down there, digging up fossils, taking pictures of bird photography, macro photography, and all that to be gone. I have 2 questions. One, Jake Huller, the one that dug the pit here, the gravel pit. I was always told that they went below what they were supposed to go. So now we're gonna go in there and dig some more and pound rocks in there. So I don't know how that's gonna affect it. The biggest concern I have, and anybody's welcome to come up and have some coffee and sit on my porch and watch these people, and some are youth, I do it sometimes, come around that corner, suggested at 35. They come around that corner. I'd really like to look at the action report, because I got photographs of every time something's happened out there. We just had a young lady chop off the telephone pole right in front of Wellwood, I don't know, or Highwood. It's crazy out there. Try backing into it, it's even crazier. And then you throw in the fire trucks, the police officers, garbage trucks. It just goes on and on and on. It's gonna affect the traffic. Now, I brought someone with me, and he lives all the way down to the stop sign. That traffic's backed all the way up to my house all the time. It's crazy. And to put 155 people, like someone mentioned, you're gonna have parties, you're gonna have visitors, you only got 76 places to park. I just don't get it. I could see some 1-story condos or something. I just can't see a 4-story building. And with the air conditioners going on, it's insane. And I really want to be here every single meeting because I love to talk, and I'm just gonna drill it to you. And I really appreciate everybody here for coming forward. And these guys are doing their job. They're a contractor to do this. Obviously, they don't live across the tracks like I do. And the people behind me that live, I call it across the railroad tracks in the nice homes. I can't understand for the life of me why all of them aren't here. Probably because they don't know. They're gonna go out in their backyard and look down there and see a garbage truck dumping garbage or people walking around. And they're temporary residents. It's not like they're gonna move in there for 30 years. I already got 268 apartments right across the street from me. If you come out of there and don't turn left or right, you go right in my driveway and it's happened. So that's all I got to say so far.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Go ahead. I'll be fast. I realize, except for Herb over there, I'm probably the oldest person in our neighborhood. So I'm Rich Conis. I live up on the top of the hill. And so I'm kind of jumping into this project a little late. I didn't really know what was going in there. I heard it was a senior apartment project. And as a Fayetteville senior, I thought, geez, it's a lot better than what could be, right? It could be something commercial. But I do have some concerns. And people have been talking about the aesthetics. And it's funny, I was walking up High Bridge. If you walk up High Bridge, every house has, founded 1860, founded 1830, 1860. And what they are farmhouses, right, going up High Bridge Street. That's not a farmhouse. What I would recommend is you take a trip down to some place that actually does community development like Hilton Head, where you can't tell a Home Depot from a house, right? It's built with the same aesthetic. So I do have some concern about aesthetics. The project as an adult community doesn't upset me as much. However, there are some safety issues that I think need to be addressed that everybody's talking about. It always kills me when I hear traffic reports. Well, there's only 13 cars. But you're absolutely right. I'm a senior. I backed into the Alzheimer's house last week to say, okay, what's it gonna be like pulling out here? And people, it's a blind corner. Somebody's gonna get, well, not somebody, a lot of people are gonna get cracked because it doesn't have to do with the volume. It has to do with how people are driving through there. That's the first issue. The other issue, obviously, everybody always talks about increased traffic. We have tons of increased traffic, and that is gonna impact us. And the last thing is that you would think being down in there, I'm up on the hill, that you wouldn't hear anything. When they put in the memory care place, we thought, well, nobody's gonna be running around out there, right? Everybody's inpatient. You hear everything. The blowers, it's like an amphitheater. So increase the number of people there, with people coming and going, that is an impact. It is something that concerns me a little bit. But mostly the idea of having a 4-story building in there, that's ridiculous. I mean, that doesn't match the neighborhood at all. But you can, when I saw the overhead plan, I thought, geez, it looks pretty good, the way they wove it in there. But then I looked at the elevation this week. I hadn't seen the elevation. I was like, it doesn't look like anything around here. So I think you could probably work that to make it fit the neighborhood a little better. And, maybe take a look at your elevations a little. As I said, I'm a senior in this town. I could probably benefit from that place, but I just don't think it fits into our, in the neighborhood at all. Just walk up the street. Every house is a farmhouse. That ain't a farmhouse. That's all you have to say.
Laura Ricardo, and I don't talk in public, so this isn't, but we have the unfortunate house, which is right across from Gramercy Lane. So when the Alzheimer's unit was built, the biggest nightmare was that summer of noise, dust, noise, all summer, construction. Picture it in your home across your street. They turned out to be okay neighbors because, like this gentleman just said, they don't go anywhere, they live there, but there are staff that come and go. It's not 11 an hour, but at night, we like to have our windows open in the summer. Well, they're leaving and they're 3 to 11 shift, playing music with a down, beat that'll rock your feelings. We call and complain and they address it, so it's okay. But like I said, we are directly across from Gramercy Circle. Is there gonna be a light there? I don't know the plan, but if there's a light there, that driveway is directly into our living room. So every car that leaves that property, I put up the light shades, the darkening shades. Our house glows with every car. 11 an hour, that'll be fun. Okay, our driveway is just to the right of the Gramercy Circle. We have to back out, we have a very short driveway. You know, the traffic on that road already is, like people have said, in every neighborhood, because people are in a hurry, is not 40 miles an hour, they come flying. And in the winter, it is not uncommon to see cars going sideways down that road because the road is not, it's steep, it's a blind curve. And now you're going to introduce 11 cars an hour in and out of there. Not to mention, you know, a minimal impact, I don't think so. I think that this is horrendous. Nowhere in Fayetteville or Manlius do we have a 3 or 4 story building anywhere. The closest one, the only one, is Town Center where my mother is, and I have to leave to go talk her in. If you want a 4 story building, go look at the, you know, across from Home Depot, and you have the, what's that called? The Holiday Inn. It's 4 stories. It's atrocious. It's a monolith, and it doesn't belong on Highbridge Street. Yes, on North Burdick Street, there's a lot of room. Like Bill Gray had said, there's a lot of opportunities for these residents to go, but not on Highbridge Street. It's ridiculous. That hill, that blind corner, no shoulder, it will be a nightmare. And if that is the only entrance and exit, you know, our property values. We moved here 30 years ago. I raised 2 kids because of the school district. This is horrible. It's a horrible idea for our community. We were here first. We should have some say. We should be considered. Right across the street. This is not going to be fun. Thank you.
What's going on? I'm bringing something up a little early here. Everybody keeps mentioning North Burdick Street.
If your comments for.
No, this has to do with this project. Everybody's talking about, you know, the project over on Genesee Street, the complex over there. They're talking about traffic. Oh, my name's Brian McAllister. I live at 150 North Burdick Street. A lot of people don't realize I'm the only one that lives within 1,000 feet of the project that's proposed at Twin Pines, okay? A lot of people don't know about that. He's just like there. Twin Pines is a project they're proposing over 400 apartments up there. How many apartments in this?
Sir, you are addressing the board.
Oh, no, it's okay. How many apartments in this complex on Highbridge Street?
70 or 80.
70 or 80. So what's that? Okay, figure another 60 cars in the wash. The project up there on North Burdick Street, 400 apartments, figure 2 cars per apartment. So I'm going to say 700 more vehicles on North Burdick Street throughout the village of Fayetteville. People here earlier were talking about, they're worried about the cut through from Genesee Street to 92. Everybody here, you don't want, this is what kills me. Don't put it in my backyard, stick it in somebody else's yard. This isn't just affecting your neighborhood. It's affecting the village. It's affecting the town. So you better start coming together and realize what's happening in our village and what's happening in our town. More and more projects are coming in. You may not want it in your backyard, but let's work as neighbors now. This isn't a small village anymore. I've lived my entire life there. I've been on North Burdick Street for 20 years. I'm a little upset. You know, I'm just sitting there listening to this stuff. The last piece of property right here that in Fayetteville, and a lot of you probably don't know, the little dike there that runs by on North Burdick Street, there's where your village cuts off and the rest is the town. They've also proposed a road for that project up top there.
If we could just focus on this public hearing.
Okay, but here I am. There's more going on in this village that people don't realize. You know, you better start watching, paying attention, because it's not just your backyard that's being affected. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Ricardo, 5138 Highbridge. That was my wife. So we live right, if you drive out of Gramercy Circle, you hit our house. First of all, thank you to the council for hearing this and for your service to the community. I appreciate it, and as well as law enforcement. We've been here 28 years. And I'm curious for one thing. Your client projected monthly income from this project?
Just sir.
We can't share that?
You can ask us and we can ask them that question. Just for
okay.
formality.
The reason I asked that, I'm saying 160, 200,000 a month. lining somebody's pockets isn't what builds communities. Communities are made of families. Families live in homes. We, like my wife said, we've raised 2 kids. We are not at all in support of this proposed plan. We've mentioned the traffic, the hill. There's delivery vehicles, there's trash vehicles. What are we doing? I mean, what is this gonna do to our home? It matters. This matters to me. This is my life. This would be my kid's home. We have a special needs daughter that we've proposed some renovations so that she could continue to be there. Is that where she wants to be? Is it gonna be safe? Is it gonna be, is it gonna be a constant traffic jam? What kind of neighborhood is that? I've seen too much, building Starbucks across from local roasters. What are we doing? What are we doing to this community? This is not top 100 places to live. This is gonna be Erie Boulevard. I don't like it. I'm not gonna get off of this message. Thank you for listening. Please make a decision based on people and on the earth. We talked about the Haudenosaunee when we came in. They didn't make decisions based on who's gonna make cash. Please, be part of change. Thank you.
Good evening. I know you're familiar with my face. My name is Margaret Mulvey. We live behind Peter and Laura. Well, we're fortunate enough to have a slightly longer driveway. However, we are very much impacted by this as well. And I am very thankful to everyone that's here tonight. Thank you for listening to me. Anyway. It is a gross understatement to simply say, I am opposed to both the request to the board for the approval of a zone change, as well as the construction of Garden Park HUD on the vacant lot adjacent to Brookdale Alzheimer and Dementia Care Facility on High Bridge. If approved, the any negative impacts to the land, the street, the surrounding neighborhood, and the town of Manlius will be lasting and irreversible. Irreversible, like what happened with the CA, the commercial zoning itself. It happened, and look what we're left dealing with. Listen to that. At last week's meeting, members of the board asked me what I thought of the comprehensive plan. At first blush, it looked to me to be a fresh new start for the town. The thoughtful and lengthy process produced a document describing the town's vision through 1, goals, and 2, objectives, all seemingly authentic and optimistic. Yes. Yet, I am deeply saddened that the third element, the implementation items, they're cut at the knees, leaving it powerless, the comprehensive plan, against the opportunistic manner in which the goals and objectives are to be pursued based on urgency, cost, and available lead agencies. The town is struggling to contend with a lack of affordable and senior housing, no coordinated, cohesive transportation network, lack of walking and bicycling infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The town should place high priority on the development of those and these sorely needed programs and services in order to allow for more comprehensive development. Instead, the town has created the PUD zoning district that opens the door wide for opportunistic, crafty developers. They've been waiting like vultures, waiting for you to let down your guard. There are areas in the town where the zoning district, the PUD zoning district, can be used well and wisely. The newest, maybe it's somewhere around the 5th iteration of the garden park proposed as a PUD, is a single land use district that allows the construction of an oversized building and parking lot that are totally anomalous to anything else in the neighborhood. I think there needs to be considerable focus on these peripheral deficiencies to better balance future land development. This should be a moment of opportunity, not opportunism. Thank you.
Nelson Ricardo, I'm also at 5138. I'm the kid they talked about earlier. We're next to the 4. Again, I'll just point like that little roof that's right across from the driveway right there. That's us.
Right there.
Thank you. Right there. That's me. You can see me waving. Like we already said, the cars that come down the hill, blinding speed. I was 5 minutes later than I would have liked to have been to this location because I had to wait for the 5-6 cars to go past the driveway. And again, you have to fight the shift change across the street when that's happening. And yeah, the headlights fill the house. Any suggestion that this development doesn't impact the surrounding area and certainly impacts it negatively, it's made by someone that doesn't live there. It's made by someone that lives far away from Hybrid Street, certainly 5138. And the proposed design, it was said before, doesn't match the aesthetic. I can tell you, just from someone that looks at that hill every day, that that empty space, like you said earlier, that empty space is not nothing. A break in your vision from some towering building is my favorite part of Fayetteville. To be able to see trees, you know, around. That's why I want to live in Fayetteville. That's why I would have been excited to inherit this house. But if it becomes, like we said, you know, Fayetteville becomes the extension of Erie Boulevard, I'm not going to want it. Nobody's going to want to live in Fayetteville. People are going to want to develop in Fayetteville. But I can speak as someone who has a fierce nationalism for this little patch of wooded houses that no, this isn't Fayetteville. This isn't a good idea. Please don't do it. I serve you coffee. We're connected. So keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Not much of a public speaker, so I just wrote a little something down while I was sitting, hope you don't mind. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Matthew Holbach. I'm a critical care nurse in the surrounding hospitals and a family nurse practitioner here in Syracuse. I've lived across the street from where this particular project is being debated for the last 4.5 years now. Now, from what I've been told, looking at the plans, the project in question is proposing, what, 70, 80 units for a senior living facility directly next to the Brookdale Senior Living Facility that's already in operation. Living across the street, I can personally attest to the numerous ambulances, fire engines, and police cruisers that already visit that particular facility multiple times a week. And now we're playing with the idea of adding just shy of 100 more seniors directly next door to that. In a 3 or 4 story complex where, and please understand, I mean no disrespect to the architect, because I do believe it's an impressive design. However, judging by the sketches online, I also personally do not see how the structure itself makes any attempt to keep to the local residential aesthetic or charm, nor does it really make any logical or logistical sense for the amount of traffic that it would bring to the street itself and the neighborhood as a whole. The architect also stated earlier that, at peak hours, we're going to see maybe 11 or more cars an hour. I fail to see how that number is accurate. Hybrid Street already sees an above average amount of vehicle traffic for a residential area. Any more seems like it would be an absolute nightmare for the good folks who already live there. And at the minimum, you're talking about residents, staff, primary medical providers, emergency vehicles, food supply trucks, environmental vehicles, not to mention family and friends that want to visit their loved ones. Again, I'm all for development of senior care facilities. We have an aging population and we need them. There's no question in that. But I'm failing to see how this particular location makes much sense for this kind of a project. It seems as though it's a profit first proposal with little regard to the surrounding residential families, let alone to the seniors they plan to service. As many of you here know, when you move into a home, it's not only supposed to be a place that makes you feel comfortable, it's safe, it's also supposed to be a place where you feel a sense of peace. And it seems all this particular project would do is take that away from the good people who not only pay one of the highest property tax rates in the surrounding areas, but who also have made one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives to live there. I just don't see the justice in that decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else looking to share a comment?
Mark Ziumba, 5029 High Bridge Street. That's 2 houses up from the hill, goes up with a 3-way stop sign. Lifetime resident there. High Bridge Street used to be my playground. We used to ride bikes, play frisbee. I had neighbors on each side of me. Their dogs used to sleep in the road. Cars would slow down, go around. I can't get out of my driveway now. Can't get in my driveway. 3 hours a day at least. Traffic is backed up halfway to Rob's house, right in front of mine. And after that clears out, turns into a drag strip. They fly out underneath the bridge one way, they go up towards Wildwood Ridge the other way. I was there when Wildwood Ridge was a sand pit. When Dartmoor Crossing was a Parker's Peony Farm. I took a count today just to see how many apartments, townhouses, condos. I lost count after 360. The traffic is just amazing. I don't have the same issues with the people that are right around that area, but that does not belong in that pit. Just traffic alone. It's not safe. A couple of weeks ago, I'm outside, car scraping along the guardrail. Somebody was there that would have got hit. They're like this, didn't bat an eyeball, just kept right on going. After it gets dark like this, cars don't stop any of it. It's amazing how many people can't handle a 3-way stop sign. They just can't. Honks, everything. That's all I have to say. I totally oppose that though. Thank you.
I've been living in that street. You say your name? Michal Dami. I live on Hybrid. In a farmhouse in front of that, in front of Brookdale. So I've been living here in this bridge on this high bridge for 25 years. Where's my girls there? When people come and visit me from out of state, I try to explain them what village is. I tell them there's no apartments, buildings. We don't have buses coming our streets. Trying to really give them the feeling of an atmosphere of our village. I have to say, when I'm gonna have a 4-floor building in front of my house, it's not gonna feel like a village anymore. I used to walk my kids to school to Mott Road. I walked on that very dangerous street with my kids, which it feels like every year it's getting worse. So I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I did that. This road is connecting between Manlius and Fayetteville, so, and growing both sides. So we get the increased traffic And I'm sure my neighbors will agree during COVID time, it was pretty nice to have the quiet sense and that feeling again of a quiet street like it used to be. And those places will keep increasing and keep growing, and the traffic will keep increasing. So when we come to you now and explain you how difficult it is already to be on that street, please bring your car, come to my driveway, try to get out, come to any of our driveway. Come go to the facility and see how long it takes you to come drive. If you want 11 cars, maybe 15, maybe 20 every hour, 10 hours a day, how much traffic there's gonna be there? We've seen cars in our front yards or in my neighbor's front yards. We had our animals drive over in that street. I see people walking from their apartments, kids from the apartments already exist, many of them, all the time, every time you try to walk that street. They walk that street and it's dangerous. So my question is, who is really responsible here for the people and the residents' safety? Who really checked that zone, that speeding? Because I did not see any speeding thing there on the road. So I don't know where they got information about how that street traffic is going on. Do we need to get a lawyer? Because it seems like, I don't know, I'm hoping that you're gonna be listening. And if that thing is gonna stand there, I'll be there every time someone is gonna get hurt. I'll be here to inform everybody what's going on our street. As Margie said, it's not gonna be reversible either. Now it's 4 floors. Now, if you look at that picture, I think it's really deceiving, and maybe architect, it was all measured, but when you see that it's just a slope, this is so close to the other building, it's so close to the road. When you're talking about Laura's Peter house, this is the space from here to right table. This is not a huge space. All those buildings are humongous. It's like an elephant, like a monster in our neighborhood. Even if you put it down the street, it will be monster. There's so much increasing traffic, both sides. If I want to go toward Fayetteville or 92, I know I'm going to stand in the stop there for a long time. You know what I'm doing? I'm crossing through their street. And everybody else is going to be crossing through that street and try to cross that. This is really dangerous up and speeding down that hill also from the back is also another traffic concern that is happening. So all of this is going to happen with 150 residents. Why do we have 78 or how many 80 apartments there? Put 20, put 40, put 30 apartments. You want to accommodate the people from the old summer place? Let me tell you, I don't want to say how many visitors are there, but if they want to live there actually and get an apartment, you don't need 5, 10, 11, 12, 70 some apartments. So we're not accommodating those people. All right, you're making money. My daughter is looking for an apartment here in Fayetteville. It's a ton of money for a stinking old room. But let me tell you, a new apartment, so now you want those people that taking care of their dying, I'm sorry, my father-in-law was there too, but from someone that is about to die to sell their house and buy an apartment, we don't even know if it's for sale or it's renting, to be living there, it's going to be a ridiculous. Another thing I want to talk about is the lies. Park, I don't see any park. Maybe 2 benches gonna be there in the back. This is tiny. This is so deceiving what you're seeing there. There's not gonna be any park. Don't call it park. Don't call it a senior place. It's not seniors. So in one document, I saw 70 something. It's 55-year-old. We have kids in school. We have our bus coming in and out. There will be 1 bus coming in and out from that one driveway because there will be people there with kids. If you have 2 bedrooms, you can be there with a kid in this wonderful school system. Do you know if Mott Road can have more kids? Do you know if we can have another 150 apartments right there with all those kids and can they come accommodate them? Where is those kids gonna play? In that little park grass in the back? I'm sorry I'm upset about this because I have kids and there's no place to play there. Or they're gonna be trying to attempt because they're gonna sell those apartments as walking distance from Tops. So let's have those people walking to Tops, seniors walking to Tops. You cannot ask us to put money into sidewalks to accommodate your building. I would like people that don't have dollars on their signs to pay attention to this and trying to help us with that. It's not an investment for our community. It is for their pocket.
Thank you. Anyone else with a comment? Be mindful of time.
This is gonna be painful. Tom Bassett, former real estate lawyer, retired real estate lawyer, lived in on Barbary Lane, about a mile from this site since 1979. So I just have a few comments. I'm really too old to play devil's advocate, but unfortunately, that's apparently my situation here. So I know the difficulty of the, by the way, I understand all the passions that have been displayed here, the concerns displayed. I understand the traffic issues, the problematic turn into that driveway. I actually go to the Brookdale facility Sunday mornings and administer communion to Catholics and others in an ecumenical mass. So that's a difficult turn, no question about that. But I remember the days of this being just a gravel pit. And the existing zoning for the property is commercial because the gravel pit was commercial. There used to be an Agway store there before it moved over to Snook's Pond. That's long gone now. For many, many years, there was an Egan real estate sign, for sale sign there. And the property, this portion of the property has been undeveloped forever and ever and ever. Recently, there's been a mystery as to how all of this fill has been dumped in the area of this development. Heavy fill, rock fill. So I'm sure there's a story there. But my problem is that the existing zoning is commercial. If you go down the list of potential uses of the property, there are a lot more objectionable uses than the proposed project. So if the zoning isn't changed, okay, this project arguably goes down the tubes, but who's to say that in a relatively short period of time, somebody else comes up with a project that can fit into a commercial zone and can build it without having to get a zone change. I don't know why I thought there would be NIMBY opposition to this project, because obviously many people live in the proximity and they've certainly expressed themselves very articulately. But this is supposed to be a senior living facility, as has been said by the advocate of the facility. It does complement the Brookdale assisted living facility in that regard. There likely would be, there's a critical need for affordable housing in the town. So we need somewhere multiple dwelling housing, less expensive housing. It might free up some of the single family dwellings that people like me, or I'll never get my wife out of our house, but we could move out of our house, free our property up for someone who wants to buy a single family house. If this facility was done, it would complete the redevelopment of the quarry. It would increase the town tax base by whatever the assessed value of the new facility would be. The drawings may or may not be accurate as far as depicting what's to be constructed, but I didn't think they were unattractive. But then again, I'm not an art major, so my aesthetics may not be particularly great. But I like the idea that there was no new curb cut out onto Hybrid Street, that this project would make use of the existing drive, the single existing drive into the property. And I just don't see how there's likely any alternative uses that would materialize that would be viable. I looked at the county planning board review, and that concluded, as it often does, that the so-called no position, which means they don't oppose the project. They made a few minor comments, but that was tantamount to an approval. So again, I understand the opposition, but I, for one, for those reasons, support the requested zone change. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for comments?
I have a question. I'm new with this. My name's Rob Wilson. I live in that house up there. This is the first time I've heard of it because I don't get to my mailbox. And believe it or not, to go to my mailbox, even with a cane, it's dangerous, very dangerous, because it's across the street. Because of that curve coming around, too many people are going too fast, and then we get smashed. I think there's been 6 or 7 since I've lived there. No one's died. My question is, you take this input that you take tonight, you take the developer's input, and then you make a decision, is this gonna happen like tomorrow, or what happens after this? That's my
So
question.
we will take the comments we've heard, we'll talk to the developer, see if there's any changes the board or the developers would like to see to the PUD. And we will consider it at another meeting.
So it'd be up to you, 6 people, to say yay or nay.
There's a 7th who's managing.
7's not there, okay.
To the zone change, then go to the planning board for the site plan review where you can provide additional input on what you would like to see at the site. We just consider the zone change.
The PUD in this
For the
case.
PUD. Not the drawings, and not what the site's gonna look like, not what the building will look like, just whether or not the zone and PUD itself that's there.
But
Go ahead, I'd like to know.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
no, and it's pertaining to this question too. The zoning change, once it's approved, is permanent.
So
So whether
we're trying to have a conversation. So are you all set?
For now, yeah.
Would you like to come up to the podium and ask your question?
Sure, so my question is, you have to give approval or not to a PUD on this site. You give the approval, they go and discover the engineering doesn't work. They can't do their project. They back out, they leave. The PUD stays.
The PUD does not stay.
The
It is-
district.
No, PUDs are different.
They are project specific.
If you went to R5, that would have been true, but
Okay.
the PUD. is
That's what I
actually
was asking.
tied, Connected to the individual
Okay.
development.
All
Now,
right,
the PUD is a one thing, but then there's the PUD, what's it called?
District plan.
District plan
district plan.
is what you're discussing,
Yeah, consider.
that's specific to this developer. And
Okay.
would not automatically go to somebody.
Okay,
Actually, I had that question too. So like, is the zoning underneath still public, how setbacks and stuff, like the zoning underneath?
Could revert back to.
No, it's an overlay district, so the zone underneath, it's still.
So it's still BCA.
It would revert back, is this stuff.
So that's.
It would be CA, yeah. If the PUD doesn't go through,
Okay.
or if the PUD goes through and then the project is not done, it still continues to be CA.
so once it's approved, the zoning is approved, and it goes on to the planning board, what's to say they don't say, well, 4 stories isn't gonna work here? Or we need 6 stories in order to make this financially viable for us.
So the planning board has an entire process for site plan review. They're also bound by the comprehensive plan and any environmental review. It's not like they get to the planning board and they add 7 stories to the building, and the planning board just says yes.
The PUD lists 4 stories, they can't go higher.
They cannot go higher. Who has I mean, do we have any say
Yes.
in what? No, on, you were saying, there are certain engineering tests or, they have to know the viability of the actual geography
Yes.
there in order to allow this building to be crammed into that gravel wall that they planned with the building against.
And that's not a zoning question, that would be a.
That's what I'm asking is who dictates or demands or requires certain of these traffic, fire,
Everything else that
police,
is
all of
site
these
plan
kinds of things.
specific is reviewed by the planning board.
And also our codes.
But they're not made mandatory, are they? That's my question is, if it should not certain things that we are concerned about and how they will impact us.
So like
How do we know
there's
that
a
those
light-
things will be
A
taken
lighting
care of?
plan is required, a traffic study is required, all of those things are done. So the planning board does that.
It's all in the town code. The
Okay.
town code of the laws of the town that mandate what they can or can't do, and then the planning board hears them and reviews the plan, makes sure that they meet the code, makes sure it fits into the character of the neighborhood, they have It's that all will come through the site plan review from the planning board.
So all of this is going on, but then it comes to an open hearing for them.
Yes.
And we're behind it all. We're like out of the picture and we're like, all of a sudden, what are we gonna do now? How do we
So-
fight this one?
So the planning board is another board of the town. In
Uh-huh.
order to approve a site plan, they have to go through a public hearing. And there would be another opportunity to share any and all concerns with the planning board. They will also, I am sure, be listening to the comments here
And
tonight.
do they do the also informing those people
Yes.
directly?
And all
Yes.
of their meetings are video.
Okay. All right, I was not aware, I mean, I don't see, that was another issue that really became very blatantly clear to us as we began trying to inform ourselves, was just the documentation and the details in the documentation were at odds all the time. The link in the agenda to the documents didn't include the draft or there was a specific document that gave a lot of information, but it wasn't there for your agenda. It was out on the document center on your website, but not the document center that was linked.
Are in the document center. They were not attached to the agenda. The agenda is attached to the old.
So it just depends. I know that there's been a lot of confusion about that. Anything that the applicant gave to me for the PUD, I would put in there. I think that some of the confusion, it even comes to volunteer experiences, because she emailed me and said, I need you to get these images up there. Some of what we've been talking about are the images that existed, I think that had existed for the previous
iteration.
Yes. I can't put anything in these folders. I can't assume, like what I said to Council Ballinger was, I can't take those renderings and put them in there, even though I think that's what the applicant may want, because if that's not what the applicant wants, and I've now put that out there for you to consider, that could be a problem. What we try to do in order to keep everything cohesive is the document center is why we link the agenda to the document center so that you have everything in all in one place, as opposed to each agenda having to kind of go with it.
So I think the issue is on our agenda tonight, it's going to the whole project, not the new, not the.
Correct.
I don't know that
That is correct. It went to the
No,
old.
well, so I
I
think,
just have a hard time.
I think the important thing here is, we are trying to put all the documents there. If people see that the proper documents are not there, they feel like something's missing. The
Yeah.
best thing to do is to reach out to the town clerk's office, via email or phone, saying, hey, I'm a concerned resident, I'm looking at this project, I think something is missing, can you address that with the applicant? And we are happy to work and make sure that that is meeting.
And
best
the
interest possible.
coordination of what documents are available, because the PUD, Garden Park PUD description gave information on recreational space and other clubhouse and all this kind of stuff. And it was bogus because what was it called, Appendix A or whatever it was attached, had nothing.
Okay.
It was identical to
Thank
the
you for
first,
that.
the
We will
original.
pay attention to how those documents get tracked on some of these more complex.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either.
Thank you.
Last thing I got, if they're gonna do a traffic study, let's try a different person, because 11 cars, there's no way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please. I just came to support my
I'm sorry, your
neighbor, Amelia Wasilo,
Thank you.
and I live at 5071 Hybrid Street. I've only been here about,
Right here,
yes.
right there.
So I came to support my neighbor, Rob. I don't have much connection to some of the emotions that people have shared because I've been here for a short period of time. But all I like to share with you is that before coming here, I did my research about the town. I talked to several people. I run a small business in town, a farmer's market. And before that, I think I've been doing that business for over 6 years now. And so I met a lot of the people that live here. And everyone is so welcoming, so pleasant. I've never had any issues with anyone. So before I invested my hardworking money in a small house, I talked to attorneys, real estate agents, and they all spoke very highly of the town
beautiful, some of them were involved in starting up programs at FM. That was one of my concerns, my son being safe, a very zero crime. The attorney told me that they have, that we have zero crime in the area. So I believed them and I took it to heart. So I moved in, I bought a beautiful little house. It's a farmhouse and pretty much maintain it the same way, other than clean it up and improving the aesthetics of it. And one of the reasons I love it so much is because when I go to my backyard, which I share the same view as Mr. Wilson does, just looking down, you still see a lot of nature. I like to escape sometimes from my busy schedule into the natural settings, being able to walk across to the little creek and sometimes even swim with my dog. But one thing I didn't hear anybody mentioning about is that when you have an increase of population, you also have an increase in crime. It's just inevitable, even though they mention senior citizens, but senior citizens are connected to families as well, grandchildren and friends. And I do get pretty concerned about the crime, the traffic as well, because like I said, I have a young teenager that is very happy. He loves the town as much as I do. He has made some beautiful friends. My neighbor is a blessing to me. But I think it is of concern, the crime that I'm certain it will increase across the street, just those apartments that we live in. There's constant police officers that come in the middle of the night, a lot of noise. I have called the cops in the past because somebody was bullying me behind me because I was going at the speed limit, and this lady was just zooming on a Corvette, and she was tailgating me because she wanted me to speed up and I wasn't. So I have actually offered my parking area to some of the officers to come in and surveillance some of these cars, and maybe that would stop. But anyway, I just want to be thankful. Everyone has been very pleasant and welcoming to us. And I would love to see it maintained in that beautiful natural state, because it has a really good reputation as an outsider. I think that I did my research really well, and I've been selling it out to a lot of relatives that are moving in and buying, their own little family homes and even businesses in town. So I think that it is well worth looking into maintaining it the way it is and keeping it within that, what the people are requesting. I think it's really important versus somebody that wants to come in and make profit out of it. Because it is beautiful and it is very tempting, because I am an investor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I apologize, I do.
Just really quick, that zoning approval it's not contingent on anything, right? You're just giving a green light for the project to go, and then we are dealing with the planning board?
So
Or
in
is
this,
this still contingent on different
in
things?
this particular instance, what's being considered is it sets out certain guidelines for the project itself. So anything that is in the PUD that is binding with the developer for the project is still in there. But the next step is planning board for site plan review, which does also consider that PUD and existing town codes.
I'm sorry, because the POD was very vague, so it actually leaves a lot of room for you to decide either or, and it talks about enhancing security and all that. So I'm assuming you're gonna look at that, but when you're gonna give that green light for this thing, and we're gonna be need to deal with the planning board, this is gonna be like too late for us, because there's no sidewalks, if there's no solution for the traffic for that small street or for all the cutting in the thing, and you're giving a green light, then we are out in the woods for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, for motion to close public hearing. Motion to close public hearing.
A second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So if you'd like to take 3 minutes to just address anything?
30 seconds.
Yep.
So we're definitely.
Yeah.
So as a part of this process, we are listening to every single comment that's being made, and as architects and as designers wanting to provide a community connected, type of project, we will take a lot of these comments into consideration in further developing a lot of this. Many of the comments that were made are actually dealt with in the next phase, with the approvals that are given by the planning board. So we will just, take all of that into account, make the changes that can be made, and, we've been listening tonight, so.
Thank you. Okay, so on the agenda is the continuation of the current open Twin Ponds PRD. So is there anyone here to comment on the Twin Ponds PV on North Third Street?
We all know me, I'm Brian McKell, so I live at 150 North 30th Street. First of all, there's been probably in the last 20 years, I think Sarah, maybe you can correct me on this, 3 or 4 projects down there have been, probably my friends in the house, but shit can't because they couldn't pass because of the, the floodways and the floodplain down there, okay? But the other problem, what I have an issue with this, I think the board, for the last 20 years and all these projects, I'm the only one that shows up because I'm the only one that lives within 1,000 feet of this place. I don't know where they send out these notices and everything else. My neighbors don't get them down there. I'm the only one that's notified. I'm the only one that lives in 1,000 feet of that place. And there's something wrong. There's an issue there.
I'm sorry, could I just get a landmark? I don't know exactly where this is.
The North Burdick project is roughly across from the medical center and Coles, that area on North Burdick Street.
Couple of houses that.
It's the old quarry, the old Burdick Street, the Fiata quarry up there, right across from the.
We will definitely look into how many notices we sent out, because I don't think we sent one out.
Okay, but I'm the only one who lives in 1,000 foot of the place, I mean, you get up to the top of the hill, you go past there, you got, there's the 2 houses that finally somebody's living in up there, they've been abandoned forever. Next development is over, the Erie Village. I mean, the apartment complexes up there, if they put in 400 apartments up there, you're looking at, and I said it earlier, 600, 700 cars in there. Now, I have the police department down there all the time. I've talked to the chief. They're down there. They're running traffic on there. They put up they've got machines sitting there now. The average speed, and I'm talking not just the cars, I'm talking commercial vehicles. I called Central, and I know that the police have called them at Central because they're doing 45 miles an hour up and down Burdick Street in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. You're talking about these other complexes here putting in, on Genesee Street, High Bridge Street. You're bringing in more traffic. People are talking about Erie Boulevard. You know what? Erie Boulevard's dead. Do we want that in our village? Okay, you're proposing the apartment complex. If you could prove to me, I mean, I'm all for, some type of development up there. But you can't control the traffic there now. People are talking about crime. You can't control the crime. You can't control what's going on in the town center. I mean, I got people laying in the lawn across the street from my house. You got people that are panhandling in the town center. The police, that's not their job to come down and do this stuff. I've talked to you, John, how many times? Have you contacted Court contacted you about the issues there?
Back from court.
Yeah, I mean, I call them 3-4 times a week. They don't answer the phone. The other thing up there is they got a proposal about the road going in through there. You want to run a road around the backside of the quarry. How are they going to run that road through a floodway? Floodway is a 0 rise. 0 rise. That means you can't bring a tablespoon of dirt in or out of there. You cannot change that. That was one of the reasons a lot of the projects down there failed. That's why the part of the project failed there in the village where all the trees are gone. It's been sitting there now for what, 2 or 3 years? 3 years, nothing there. And I'm pulling teeth to get the people, that even mow it or keep it clean or anything like that. Same up there on the other side of the town. But that flood, the floodway and floodplain, in my opinion, if anything's gonna, when you guys have somebody's proposing a project for that's going to affect the floodway or the floodplain in the village, my belief is everybody that lives along Limestone Creek should be notified because it affects everybody. And I'm talking from over where, town over on Manlius Center Road, all the way to Manlius. It affects it because it backs up. And it affects the people on Kirkville Road. Because when Limestone backs up, Butternut backs up. When Butternut and Limestone back up, so does Chittenango Creek. It's not just the people that live within 1,000 feet of that's affected. And I want you got to take that into consideration. I mean, I got right here, here's the map right here. These people in that area,
How many people live in that area? You gotta play, how many you pay flood insurance? You see the cost of freaking flood insurance?
Yes.
It's ridiculous. You know, FEMA, you know, yeah, they're in here, they're looking right now, supposedly gonna change it. Things have gotten a little better since the dam's gone. But they still comes over the creek. Every year, the creek is maybe 10, 15 feet from my house. In July, late, right now, I could take any of you down there. I've all invited you down there numerous times to walk down there, and I'll show you where it floods and how it floods. I go down there right now, go in my backyard, I'll dig down 2 foot and I'm gonna hit water. You know, I've lived here all my life and you know, there's gotta be some consideration for the people that live down there in that neighborhood. They've been there forever. You know, they're seniors. I'm talking people 70, 80 years old living down there. I've carried them out of their houses when it's flooded down there and it's not fair. And the other thing is bringing more traffic in there. Like I said, 600 more cars. The officers are down there, they're running traffic and stuff, and they're watching these people 40, 50 miles an hour. Average speed is 45 miles an hour. They caught them coming out of the town center down there, 60, 70 miles an hour on Burdick Street. It affects our village. All these projects are gonna affect our village. Something's gotta be done. I hope you take that into consideration before you give these people that will go ahead and give them their zone change and everything else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments on the twin ponds, PB? Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, you have to make a disclosure. I found out after our meeting last week, Harris Street actually represents property owner out of the Rochester office. So, I make that disclosure publicly today. If you are uncomfortable with me working on this project here, and that's not a legal contract, let me know and we will arrange for another attorney to provide assistance on this.
Okay.
Was this recorded?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So next up, we have a draft of local law amending definitions section in RT zoning relative to cannabis. I think we're just looking to set a date on the
Motion to set a date for a public hearing on October 18th, 2023 at 6:35 PM to consider proposed local law amending chapter 155 of the town code to allow for short-term agricultural retail, including cannabis sales in the RT district, and requiring an operating permit for the same under chapter 59 of the town code.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Everyone's had a chance, I hope, to review the TMPD lease with Village of Manlius. This is the 2023 to 2025 lease. As you can see, we've got it at a 2% increase each year, including the first year. And I know Councilor Stein and I worked with the village, that some language about emergency repairs and things like that. There also will be, as an understanding of this lease, the village has requested payment for a few change orders that they feel are outside of the scope of the lease. And so as part of accepting this lease, I also asked that we add to the budget for next year, the roughly $21,000 for those change orders, as they were pretty substantial changes. And I already have talked with the chief about making sure that any changes like that, that he'll ensure that there's board approval prior to the village taking on those projects. So I would look for a motion to.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into this new lease agreement with the Village of Manlius for a 3-year period at a rate of $100,077.30, increasing by 2% each subsequent year as outlined in the agreement presented.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. They'll be very happy to have their. Okay, next up, we have, this looks like a pump replacement in the Skyridge Water District. Aqua reached out and got a quote for that, and so we as stewards of the Skyridge Water Districts.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize expenditures from the Skyridge Water District, so this is them paying for it. For the removal and replacement of submersible pump at a rate of $3,420 as outlined in the proposal.
Bill second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Next So you may recall that we're planning to do an addition on the highway garage. And this is, we're doing various steps of getting ready for that decision. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve the selection of CNY land surveying to complete the land surveying related to the expansion of the highway garage. We have $6,928. And I would like to remind everybody that we have previously designated our funding to cover this.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And then I'd like to make a motion to approve the selection of Kenny Geotechnical for geotechnical services related to the expansion of the highway garage for $12,640.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we need an abstract.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve abstract number 19 in the amount of $367,039.06. And the winner is the rent for Manlius.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Anything else in the business or anyone else? Okay.
That was just last week.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?